On a muddy field, the fate of an empire and a continent will be decided. History holds its breath. One man's audacious gamble, a desperate roll of the dice. Europe's future hangs by a thread. His 72,000 elite against a combined Allied force of nearly 120,000. Unprecedented odds. This is Waterloo. Not just a battle, but a collision that would forever reshape the map of Europe. In 1815, after years of relentless war, Europe craved peace. Yet, one last storm gathered. A continent weary of endless conflict was about to be plunged back into the abyss by one extraordinary figure. He had returned. The emperor, who once held Europe, was back for a final desperate play. From exile, he defied all odds, reigniting hope in France and terror in his enemies. Across Europe, the great powers scrambled. Alliances were forged, armies mobilized. A final showdown loomed. Napoleon's genius was undisputed. Strike fast, divide his enemies, conquer before they could unite. Against him stood two giants, the steadfast Wellington and the relentless Marshal Blucher, Europe's last hope. Their plan: unite their forces. Napoleon's: prevent union. The stakes for Europe were unimaginable. His elite Grande Armée, though smaller, was unparalleled in experience and loyalty. They were his chosen. But the Allied ranks swelled with diverse nations, united only by their resolve to end Napoleon's reign. As summer of 1815 dawned, the stage was set. Belgium would soon echo with cannon fire. This wasn't merely a battle. It was a clash of titans, ideologies, and a generation's accumulated fury. Every soldier, from seasoned veteran to fresh recruit, understood the gravity of the impending storm. The air was thick with anticipation, a silence before the thunder, pregnant with the fate of millions. Napoleon believed victory was his, a final triumphant return to glory. He always defied the odds. Wellington, stoic, observing his defensive positions, trusting in his men. His resolve was firm. Join us into the heart of this epic confrontation, minute by minute, move by desperate move. This is the story of 72,000 versus 120,000, a battle that shook all of Europe. In 1814, a titan fell. Europe exiled Napoleon Bonaparte to the desolate island of Elba, believing peace was secured. Yet, the emperor remained a phantom menace, his shadow still stretching across a fragile, weary continent. Beneath the watchful eyes of Europe, Napoleon meticulously planned his impossible escape, a final, audacious gamble. On February 26, 1815, a legend broke free. Napoleon slipped his bonds, setting sail for destiny. The journey was fraught with peril, a desperate crossing as Europe remained oblivious to its impending storm. March 1st, 1815, the Eagle landed. Napoleon's return to French soil ignited a wildfire of hope and fear. His mere presence was magnetic. Regiments sent to capture him knelt instead, pledging loyalty to their emperor. The march to Paris became a triumphal procession, gaining momentum with every town, every village, every loyal heart. The Bourbon monarchy, fragile and reviled, crumbled before Napoleon's unstoppable advance. King Louis XVIII fled in haste. On March 20th, Napoleon entered Paris without firing a shot. The 100 Days had begun, a breath of war. Across Europe, news of Napoleon's miraculous return sent shockwaves. Disbelief quickly morphed into chilling dread. The Congress of Vienna, meticulously redrawing Europe's map, was shattered. Their peace, built on his exile, now crumbled. Fear gripped the monarchs. The man they had twice defeated was back, his ambition undimmed, his spirit unbroken. Immediately, the great powers declared Napoleon an outlaw, a disturber of world peace, uniting against their common foe. Britain's Wellington, victor of Waterloo, knew this was a challenge he could not, would not, ignore. Prussia, still smarting from past defeats, yearned for vengeance. Blucher's iron will drove them towards conflict. Even Austria, Napoleon's former ally by marriage, moved to mobilize, driven by the imperative of stability. From the east, Tsar Alexander I readied his formidable armies, determined to crush the resurrected threat. The Seventh Coalition was born, an alliance forged in desperation, uniting Europe against the specter of French dominance. Meanwhile, Napoleon, with astounding speed, set about rebuilding France's shattered army. Time was his most precious commodity. The French people, too, were divided. Relief at his return, yet dread of another costly, endless war. Europe was weary of war, exhausted by 2 decades of relentless conflict and the constant threat of French expansion. But the greater fear was Napoleon himself. His return threatened to unravel all progress towards lasting peace. The motivation was clear: restore the balance of power, prevent France from once again dominating the continent. It was also about dynastic security, safeguarding monarchies against the revolutionary ideals Napoleon still embodied. For many, it was personal. Generals and statesmen, humiliated before, now sought final retribution against him. 2 irreconcilable forces were on a collision course. There could be no peace while Napoleon ruled France. The stage was set. Belgium, a strategic crossroads, would become the inevitable battleground for Europe's fate. Europe became a powder keg, primed for explosion. The tension was palpable, the air thick with anticipation. The world held its breath. The greatest showdown in European history was now, truly, unavoidable. Napoleon's shadow loomed large across Europe, but 2 formidable adversaries dared to challenge his imperial ambition. The Duke of Wellington and Marshal Blucher, disparate leaders, became Europe's unlikely, crucial guardians. Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington. His reputation for stoic resilience and unwavering resolve preceded him. Known as the Iron Duke, his calm demeanor masked a keen strategic mind and unparalleled military experience. He was a master of defensive warfare, a silent, unyielding bulwark against the Emperor's relentless might. Wellington's army was a diverse tapestry, an allied force woven from many nations, united against a common foe. At its core, the disciplined British regulars, seasoned veterans whose unwavering courage would soon be tested. Elite British cavalry and artillery provided crucial firepower, a potent, disciplined force honed by years of conflict. The Dutch-Belgian contingent, newly formed and less experienced, added crucial numbers to Wellington's ranks. Their commitment varied, yet they represented the unified resolve of smaller nations against French dominance. Contingents from various German states, loyal to the Allied cause, brought their own unique strength to the field. Their combined forces, though heterogeneous, presented a substantial, if challenging, defensive shield for Europe. Gebhard Leberecht von Blücher, the fiery Prussian marshal, his name synonymous with relentless aggression and zeal. Marshal forwards, his men's cry, reflecting a spirit of unwavering attack, driven by a thirst for vengeance. Old but unyielding, Blücher's determination to crush Napoleon was a personal, visceral commitment. Blücher commanded a resilient Prussian army, forged in defeat and hungry for redemption against the French. Though many were new recruits and militia, the Prussian fighting spirit, honed by experience, was indomitable. Their discipline, coupled with Blücher's aggressive leadership, made them a formidable, relentless offensive force. Belgium, a crucial buffer, became the stage for the impending clash, strategically vital for both sides. Wellington's Allied forces were positioned to cover Brussels, extending westward, ready to pivot. Blücher's Prussians, positioned further east, aimed to protect the route to their homeland yet remain ready. A calculated risk. A gap existed, but their plan hinged on rapid convergence to face Napoleon's onslaught. The plan was precarious. 2 separate armies, relying on precise coordination to unite against a single enemy. Communication was key. Couriers raced between headquarters, carrying vital dispatches and evolving strategies. Despite their differences, a solemn promise of mutual support solidified their fragile, desperate alliance. They prepared to face the French Colossus, a single, unified force, with overwhelming numerical and tactical superiority. Napoleon, moving with characteristic speed, sought to divide and conquer, striking between the Allied armies. Every decision, every troop movement, was a move in a high-stakes chess game, life and death balanced precariously. The air crackled with anticipation, Europe held its breath, awaiting the first decisive shots of a monumental conflict. The stage was set. Two unlikely guardians, with their diverse armies, stood ready against the Emperor's final gamble. 1815. Europe holds its breath. Napoleon, returned from exile, gambles everything on a lightning strike. His strategy: prevent the Allied armies, Wellington and Blucher, from uniting their formidable strength. The Emperor's genius demanded speed, decisive action, and an iron will from his veteran Grande Armée. Against him, the formidable Duke of Wellington and the fiery Prussian Field Marshal Blucher stood. The fate of empires hinged on these crucial opening moves. The stage was set for devastating conflict. Napoleon's vanguard spearheaded into Belgium, aiming for the strategic crossroads of Quatre Bras. His audacious plan: drive a wedge between the British and Prussian armies, defeating them individually. Blucher's Prussians, keen for revenge, were concentrated around Ligny, ready to engage the French. Wellington's multinational force, stretched, was converging towards Quatre Bras, unaware of imminent threats. Two battles would unfold almost simultaneously, a testament to Napoleon's daring, audacious strategic mind. June 16, 1815. The sun rose on a day that would decide the fate of nations. Near Ligny, Napoleon unleashed his artillery, signaling the start of a brutal, unforgiving engagement. Blucher's Prussians, though outnumbered, fiercely held their ground, refusing to yield an inch. The villages of Ligny and Saint-Amand became bloody focal points, changing hands repeatedly. French columns, led by relentless generals, pressed forward with characteristic aggression and unwavering courage. The air was thick with gunpowder and screams, a symphony of destruction echoing across the fields. Blucher himself led cavalry charges, inspiring his men with his indomitable spirit and raw courage. His personal bravery galvanized the Prussians, turning Ligny into a desperate, ferocious fight for survival. Napoleon watched, confident his superior numbers and tactical acumen would eventually prevail over the Prussians. Despite heavy casualties, the Prussian lines bent but did not snap, displaying incredible resilience. The relentless French cannonade pounded the Prussian positions, slowly grinding down their stubborn resistance. Every inch of ground was contested, paid for in blood and sacrifice by both sides that day. As night fell, Blucher ordered a strategic retreat, narrowly avoiding complete annihilation from the French army. Napoleon had achieved a victory. The Prussians were beaten, seemingly driven from the field. Yet, this triumph was incomplete. The Prussians were bruised, not broken. Their fighting spirit endured. Crucially, Blucher retreated north, towards Wavre, maintaining communication with Wellington's scattered forces. Napoleon, misled about their direction, believed the Prussians were out of the immediate fight. A costly miscalculation. While Ligny raged, another vital struggle unfolded at the strategic crossroads of Quatre Bras. Here, Marshal Ney, Napoleon's bravest of the brave, faced Wellington's assembling forces. Wellington, slowly concentrating his scattered army, was caught off guard but reacted swiftly. French cavalry launched repeated, furious assaults, attempting to break the British and Allied lines. The Allied forces, though outnumbered initially, stood firm against overwhelming French pressure and charges. Key defensive positions, like the farmhouse of Gemiancourt, became vital bastions against the French onslaught. Reinforcements slowly arrived, including the famed Scottish Highlanders, bolstering Wellington's desperate defense. Wellington's calm presence and tactical acumen were crucial, inspiring his men to hold their ground. Ney's persistent but uncoordinated attacks failed to dislodge the stubbornly entrenched Allied defenders. The crossroads became a meat grinder, claiming lives from both sides in fierce, desperate close-quarters combat. As darkness descended, the battle stalemated. Wellington's forces had held, preventing a strategic breakthrough. Yet, the news from Ligny reached him. Blucher's retreat meant Wellington must now fall back. The Allies retreated, but in a coordinated move, converging north, away from Napoleon's perceived trap. Napoleon believed his opening gambit had succeeded, dividing his enemies. He was tragically mistaken. A lack of decisive pursuit allowed the Prussians precious time to regroup, crucial for what was to come. The stage was now set, not for Napoleon's decisive victory, but for a final epic confrontation. The fateful fields of Waterloo awaited. Europe's destiny hung precariously in the balance. June 18th, 1815. A fateful morning dawns over Belgium, shrouded in mist and uncertainty. The previous night's deluge has turned the battlefield into a quagmire, delaying Napoleon's plans. But the Emperor's resolve remained unbroken. Victory, he believed, was within his grasp. 72,000 French soldiers, poised for their final desperate gamble against a united Europe. Napoleon's plan, a brutal, direct assault, breaking Wellington's center and splitting his forces. He aimed to exploit any weakness, concentrating overwhelming power against key Allied strongholds. Every man knew the stakes. This was not just a battle, it was the destiny of an empire. Precise orders were given, outlining the initial barrages and the relentless infantry advances to come. Across the valley, Wellington's ingenious defense waited. His chosen ground was paramount. He had carefully selected the Mont Saint-Jean ridge, using its contours to conceal his troops. This strategic concealment offered vital protection from French artillery and cavalry charges. Wellington's genius lay in maximizing terrain advantages, forcing Napoleon to fight uphill. Two bastions anchored Wellington's flanks, the fortified Hougoumont farm to the west. A vital strongpoint, Hougoumont was garrisoned by elite British guards, Prussians and Nassauers. Napoleon saw it as a diversion, ordering a probing attack to draw in Wellington's reserves. But the diversion soon erupted into a brutal, prolonged struggle, consuming vast resources. For hours, French infantry would smash against its walls, met with unwavering, fierce resistance. Hougoumont became a crucible, a symbol of Allied tenacity against overwhelming French assaults. To the east, La Haye-Sainte, a smaller farm, controlled the crucial Genappe-Brussels road. Garrisoned by the King's German Legion, its defense was paramount to Wellington's center. Losing it meant exposing Wellington's main line, risking a catastrophic breach and collapse. Its defense, though less dramatic than Hougoumont, was equally critical for the Allied survival. Around 11:30 a.m., the ground trembled. Napoleon's thunderous artillery barrage began. Cannonballs tore through the air, crashing into the Allied lines, testing their resolve. Wellington's hidden positions offered some protection, but the psychological toll was immense. Then came the first wave. d'Erlon's I Corps, in huge columns, marched towards the ridge. The fighting at Hougoumont intensified, a desperate close-quarters melee for every garden wall. French engineers desperately tried to breach the gates, only to be repulsed by fierce defenders. Wave after wave of French infantry broke against the farm's impregnable walls, dying in droves. The defenders, though outnumbered, fought with astonishing courage, holding their crucial ground. Fire engulfed parts of the farm, yet the garrison refused to yield, battling through flames. What began as a feint became a deadly, costly battle, bleeding Napoleon's precious reserves. As d'Erlon's attack faltered, the magnificent French cavalry prepared their devastating charges. Marshal Ney, the bravest of the brave, misunderstood an Allied retreat as a rout. Over 9,000 French horsemen, a glittering wave of steel and fury, thundered towards the ridge. An awe-inspiring sight, designed to shatter enemy morale and break their infantry lines. But Wellington's disciplined infantry had anticipated this. They swiftly formed impregnable squares. These human fortresses, bristling with bayonets, were death traps for any cavalry charge. Courage and discipline held them firm. Form square. The shouted commands echoed across the field. A testament to their training, these squares stood ready to face the full might of French cavalry. The clash was horrific. Horsemen surged, attempting to break the squares, but were repelled. Musket volleys ripped through the charging ranks, bringing down horses and riders in bloody heaps. Again and again they charged, circling the unyielding squares, their fury matched by Allied resolve. This brutal dance of steel and courage defined the early afternoon, a desperate fight for survival. As the brutal day at Waterloo wore on, The titanic struggle showed no signs of abating. Napoleon's relentless assaults continued, hoping to break Wellington's unyielding lines before nightfall. Yet, the British squares held firm, a bulwark against the French tide, bleeding the Grande Armée dry. Each French thrust, though powerful, met stubborn resistance, slowly draining Napoleon's strength. But the Emperor knew time was his enemy. He scanned the horizon, awaiting crucial reinforcements. Far to the east, Blucher's Prussians, battered but unbroken, were indeed marching with grim determination. Driven by vengeance and duty, Blucher ignored his wounds, pushing his men to their absolute limits. The sounds of distant cannon fire spurred them on. They knew Wellington needed them desperately now. Their objective: Napoleon's exposed eastern flank, a vulnerability that could turn the entire battle. Then, a new enemy materialized. Prussian scouts clashed with French pickets near Plancenoit village. The news spread like wildfire through the French lines. The Prussians had finally arrived, a grave threat. Napoleon was forced to divert precious reserves, weakening his main attack against the British. The battle for Plancenoit ignited into a ferocious, close-quarters struggle, a brutal delaying action. Every house, every garden became a fortress, a testament to the desperate, bloody fighting for control. The Prussian arrival was more than a flank attack. It was a hammer blow, splitting his attention. Wellington's men, hearing the distant roar of battle from the east, knew aid was finally at hand. A surge of hope invigorated the weary defenders, strengthening their resolve to hold their ground. The tide began to turn, subtly at first, then undeniably, as Prussian pressure mounted relentlessly. Napoleon's army, already exhausted, found itself caught in a brutal, vice-like pincer movement. Confusion and despair began to ripple through the French ranks, their resolve starting to waver. Blucher's cavalry, fresh and ferocious, poured onto the field, striking deep into the French flank. The French fought with incredible bravery, but the momentum had shifted, now decisively against them. With his flank crumbling and British lines holding, Napoleon faced an agonizing, impossible choice. Only one option remained: his ultimate gamble, the legendary, undefeated Imperial Guard. These were the Emperor's elite, the Old Guard, his most cherished, formidable soldiers, his last hope. The command was given: the Guard will advance. A final, desperate attempt to break Wellington's line. With unwavering discipline, the Imperial Guard formed columns, ready to march into history or oblivion. They marched forward, a formidable, silent wall, impervious to fear, straight into the teeth of danger. Napoleon watched, his empire's destiny now resting entirely on the shoulders of his loyal guard. Before them, the unwavering British lines, a sea of red, braced for the Emperor's final furious charge. Wellington's men stood firm, knowing this was the moment of truth, the decisive clash of titans. Through cannon fire and musket volleys, the Guard pushed on, a testament to their legendary courage. The clash was deafening, savage. Bayonets met bayonets as two great armies collided in a desperate embrace. Then came the devastating British volley, perfectly timed, tearing through the proud ranks of the Guard. For the first time, the invincible Imperial Guard wavered, their legendary momentum broken by the fire. And then, the unthinkable "La Garde recule." The cry echoed, signifying the end of an era. The retreat of the Imperial Guard triggered a full-scale rout, shattering the Grande Armée's discipline. Napoleon, witnessing the collapse, knew his final gamble had failed, his destiny irrevocably sealed. The once mighty Grande Armée dissolved into a panicked mob, pursued relentlessly by the victorious Allies. Symbols of imperial glory lay trampled, signifying the brutal, decisive end of Napoleon's reign. Wellington and Blucher met, their handshake sealing the victory, marking the end of the Napoleonic Wars. The sun set on Waterloo, leaving behind a field of death and the profound silence of a broken empire. Napoleon's final gamble, a desperate roll of the iron dice, forever changed the course of European history. Waterloo marked not just a battle's end, but the collapse of an era, ushering in a new European order. The Grande Armée, once an unstoppable force, now crumbled into a desperate, disorganized rout. Waterloo claimed everything. Blucher's Prussians unleashed a brutal, vengeful pursuit, turning French retreat into utter catastrophe. There was no mercy. The shattered remnants of Napoleon's army abandoned all, scattered across the dark, unforgiving Belgian landscape. Their spirit was broken. Dawn revealed the grim harvest of war, a field of death and agony, a stark monument to imperial ambition. For Napoleon, the scale of defeat was undeniable, a crushing blow to his invincible legend. His empire was lost. Leaving the field of his ultimate defeat, Napoleon began a somber, silent retreat from his destiny. Europe would change. The once proud imperial guard, shattered and humiliated, joined the desperate, broken exodus back to France. Their glory was gone. Napoleon's return to Paris was met not with cheers, but with a chilling, silent apprehension. The capital awaited its fate. Amidst political turmoil, factions within Paris quickly moved to strip Napoleon of his power. The sharks began circling. Isolated and abandoned by many, Napoleon faced an agonizing choice: abdicate or prolong a futile, bloody resistance. His reign ended. For the second and final time, Napoleon Bonaparte signed away his imperial crown. A chapter in history closed forever. Stripped of power, Napoleon desperately sought passage to America, a final bid for freedom. But his path was sealed. His final gamble failed. With no escape, Napoleon's only choice was to surrender to his oldest, most steadfast enemy. On board the Bellerophon, Napoleon bid a silent, solemn farewell to the continent he had dominated. An era concluded. His ultimate prison, the remote, desolate island of St. Helena, an inescapable rock in the vast, unforgiving Atlantic. Here, the once unrivaled emperor would spend his remaining years, a prisoner of war, his dreams of conquest extinguished. Waterloo marked the definitive end of the Napoleonic Wars, ushering in a dramatic, irreversible transformation for Europe. The continent changed. For decades, Napoleon's campaigns had reshaped European borders through relentless, bloody conflict. Empires rose and fell. At the Congress of Vienna, Europe's powers meticulously redrew the continent's map, seeking stability after 2 decades of war. Diplomats and monarchs gathered, their task immense, to forge a lasting peace from the ashes of Napoleonic ambition. Statesmen like Metternich and Talleyrand meticulously crafted a new political order, attempting to balance power and suppress revolution. This new order aimed to prevent future hegemonic threats, establishing a fragile, intricate balance of power across Europe. Waterloo undeniably closed Napoleon's extraordinary chapter. Yet his shadow and his legacy would forever loom over Europe. The smoke of battle cleared, but Waterloo's echoes reverberated, shaping a new continent. Its legacy endures. Beyond the fields of Belgium, this single clash forever altered the course of empires and nations. Waterloo cemented the power of combined arms, infantry, cavalry, and artillery working in lethal concert. The battle showcased effective command and control, crucial for managing vast armies on a complex field. Defensive strongholds proved invaluable, slowing advances and bleeding attackers dry. A harsh lesson learned. Logistical support, often overlooked, became a critical determinant of victory and defeat in future wars. The devastating power of concentrated artillery was undeniable, forever changing battlefield engagements and tactics. Waterloo marked the definitive end of Napoleon's imperial ambitions, closing a tumultuous chapter in history. European powers, shaken by decades of war, redrew the map at Vienna, seeking stability and order. France, once dominant, saw its continental power significantly curtailed, its imperial dreams shattered. Prussia's vital role at Waterloo signaled its burgeoning military might, foreshadowing future German unification. The concert of Europe emerged, an attempt to maintain peace through diplomacy and collective security against future hegemons. Britain's victory solidified its position as the preeminent global power for the coming century. Naval supremacy, already established, was now unchallengeable, securing trade routes and colonial dominance worldwide. Economic strength, fueled by industrialization, propelled British influence across continents and oceans. Britain's diplomatic leverage soared, influencing international treaties and shaping global political landscapes. Napoleon's final defeat became a legend, a cautionary tale of ambition and the fragility of power. The myth of the invincible emperor was shattered, replaced by the grim reality of a decisive military loss. His solitary exile on Street Helena served as a potent symbol of ultimate imperial downfall and broken dreams. Across Europe, the news sparked both relief and apprehension, permanently reshaping the continent's collective psyche. Waterloo profoundly influenced emerging national identities, forging stories of heroism, sacrifice, and resilience. The clash became a timeless study in military genius, analyzing decisions that swayed the fate of nations. Ultimately, Waterloo stands as a stark reminder of history's cost, shaped by immense sacrifice and valor. Thus concludes our epic journey into the Battle of Waterloo, a conflict forever etched in the annals of history. Its monumental significance reshaped a continent, ushering in a new era for Europe after Napoleon's final stand. Waterloo stands as an eternal testament to unwavering human courage, even amidst the most brutal, unforgiving chaos. It showcased both the profound brilliance and devastating blunders of military strategy on an unprecedented scale. Above all, Waterloo dramatically underscored the unpredictable nature of warfare, where fate hinges on a single moment. From this colossal clash, invaluable lessons were painfully learned, shaping the doctrines of future conflicts forever. The price of victory and the agony of defeat echo across centuries, reminding us of war's profound cost. From common soldiers to legendary commanders, Waterloo forged heroes whose names resonate through time. The enduring legend of Waterloo continues to captivate the keenest minds of historians worldwide. Its dramatic narrative and profound impact enthrall enthusiasts, ensuring this epic story will never fade. Join us again at a leading analysis channel for more epic histories and unparalleled deep dives into the past. If you found this analysis insightful, please hit the like button to help our channel grow. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for future cinematic historical documentaries unlocking more knowledge. Your continued support powers our journey, allowing us to resurrect the compelling sagas of history's greatest battles.